If this is you, then you know exactly what it feels like to fall silent and watch her reaction. You stop talking, maybe because you're tired of always being the one reaching out. Maybe because you've noticed that the more you say, the less she listens, and now you're caught in that strange, hollow quiet where you're wondering if she even notices you're gone. You pick up your phone, scroll through it, pretending not to care, but in the back of your mind, there's that voice asking, is she thinking about me right now, or has she already moved on? Maybe this feels familiar. You replay the last words you said to her, wondering if she caught the edge in your tone, if she even cared enough to notice the shift. You tell yourself you're done trying, that silence is your way of taking your power back. But deep down, there's a war going on inside you. One part of you hopes she reaches out, the other part fears she won't. And that fear, it eats at you, doesn't it? That quiet is not just silence, it's a test of her interest, her effort, her willingness to fight for you the way you fought for her. And yet, as the hours pass, as the days stretch on, the silence becomes heavier. You start to question yourself. Did I make the right move? Did I just push her away for good? You check your messages, refreshing the screen even though you know there's nothing there. You tell yourself not to break, not to send that one text you've typed and deleted a dozen times. But it's hard, isn't it? Hard to sit in that silence when you don't know what's happening on her side of it. If this is you, then you're not alone. Countless men know this exact ache, the battle between holding strong and caving in. And yet, deep down, you also know something else. Silence changes things. It stirs something in her. It forces her to feel the weight of your absence in ways words never could. But the question is, when you finally stop talking to her, what does she actually do? Listen, most men get this situation completely wrong. They think silence is a game. They believe that if they stop talking to her, she'll suddenly come running back, begging for attention. And when that doesn't happen right away, panic sets in. They break the silence, send that desperate text, and undo every ounce of strength they were trying to build. That's where the mistake is, because silence isn't a tactic, it's not a trick. It's a reflection of something deeper, your value and your willingness to stand firm in it. The truth is, a woman pays far more attention to your energy than to your words. If your silence comes from fear, she feels it. If you're waiting on edge for her reply, she senses that tension even before you hit send. But if your silence comes from groundedness, from self-respect, from a place of calm authority, then it carries weight. Then it forces her to feel the absence of your presence. And trust me, presence is the thing she notices most about a man. Here's where most guys go wrong. They think constant communication equals connection. They think if they don't keep talking, she'll forget them. But the reality is, when you're always available, always pouring out words, always chasing, your presence becomes background noise. She tunes it out. She doesn't have to lean in because you're already leaning so far toward her. What she respects, what she craves is balance. She wants to feel your presence, but she also wants to feel the space where your presence used to be. That contrast is what makes her realize what she might lose. There's a masculine principle here that most men never learn: restraint. A man doesn't always need to fill the silence. He doesn't always need to explain, to justify, to beg for clarity. Restraint is power, because it communicates one thing very clearly. You don't need her validation to stay grounded in who you are. You're not controlled by whether or not she texts you back. And that is the very energy that makes her take you seriously. Think about it. When you stop talking, she has to face herself. She has to sit with her own emotions, her own thoughts about you. And in that quiet, she will do something. Maybe she'll test you to see if you'll break. Maybe she'll feel your absence so strongly that she starts reaching out. Maybe she'll pull back, hoping to draw you into the chase. But here's the point. You won't know if you're constantly jumping in to fill the gap. You rob yourself of ever seeing her true behavior. Silence is not about manipulating her. It's about revealing her. It shows you where she really stands. And this is why calm authority is so important. If you sit in silence with fear, it consumes you. You obsess, you check your phone, you doubt yourself. But if you sit in silence with authority, you recognize it as a filter. The wrong woman will drift. The right one will feel the pull and move closer. Either way, you win, because you're not bending yourself into knots trying to force an outcome. Another principle that comes into play here is patience. Masculine patience is not passive. It's not sitting around doing nothing. It's the patience of someone who knows his worth, who invests his energy in himself, his purpose, his growth, instead of burning it all up chasing someone who isn't sure. When you stop talking to her, your job isn't to sit staring at the clock. It's to pour into yourself, to become so steady, so focused, that whether she comes back or not, you remain unshaken. This is what most men never understand. Silence isn't about her, it's about you. It's about whether you can hold your ground long enough to see the truth. Because a woman will absolutely do something when you stop talking to her. The question is, are you grounded enough to let her show you? Or will you panic, break the silence, and prove that you never really had the authority you thought you did? When you learn to hold that calm authority, you stop fearing the silence. You start to see it for what it really is, a mirror. And in that mirror, both you and she reveal who you truly are. The room was quiet in a way that felt unnatural, not peaceful, not restful, just heavy. He sat there, phone face down on the table, pretending not to notice how many times he wanted to reach for it. The hum of the ceiling fan, the faint tick of the clock on the wall. Every sound seemed louder than usual, because the one sound he was waiting for wasn't there. No vibration, no notification, no message from her. He told himself he wouldn't give in this time. He'd said too much already. He'd explained, reassured, tried to make her understand. But the more he talked, the less she seemed to hear. So he stopped. He let the silence settle in between them, not because he wanted to punish her, but because he needed to breathe. He needed to see what would happen if he just stopped. At first, it felt like strength. There was a kind of power in holding back, in not reaching out. But as the hours passed, that power started to twist into doubt. What if she doesn't notice? What if she doesn't care? What if my silence is the very thing that pushes her away forever? His mind whispered questions he couldn't silence. Meanwhile, across town, her night didn't feel the same either. She scrolled through her feed, eyes scanning but not seeing. She picked up her phone more than once, thumb hovering over his name. She wanted to type something, anything. But her pride held her back. Why hasn't he said anything? He always says something. Did he lose interest? Did he finally give up on me? That's the strange thing about silence. It echoes. It doesn't just sit still. It spreads. He felt it in his chest, tight and restless. She felt it in her stomach, sharp and uncertain. Neither of them said a word, but both of them heard the same question ringing louder with every passing hour. Who's going to break first? He sat on the edge of his bed that night, the glow of the streetlights cutting lines across the floor. His phone buzzed once, his heart jumped, but it was just an email. He exhaled, half in relief, half in disappointment. Don't cave, he reminded himself. If she cares, she'll show it. If she doesn't, you'll know. And she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, tossing her phone from one hand to the other. Finally, she opened the messages, scrolled up through the history, rereading the words he had sent before, the way he cared, the way he tried, the way he always filled the silence. And now, nothing. It hit her in a way she didn't expect. His absence was louder than his words ever were. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard, heart pounding. What if he's really done? What if this silence means I lost him? She started typing, erased it, typed again. Finally, she pressed send. A small message, but it carried everything. Her worry, her fear, her longing. And just like that, the silence had done what no amount of words could. It forced her to feel. It made her realize the space he once filled. It drew her closer, not because he chased, but because he didn't. That's what happens when you stop talking. A woman will notice, she will feel the void, and in that quiet she will make a choice, reach for you or let the silence swallow her. Either way, the truth comes out. A lot of men think silence is about punishment, that if you stop talking to her, she'll automatically come chasing. That's not true. Silence isn't about controlling her, it's about revealing her. It shows you who she really is when you're not the one carrying the connection. Another false belief is that silence will make her forget you. The reality? If you've been present, if you've made an impact, silence makes her feel your absence more deeply than words ever could. If she forgets you instantly, it means you were never truly seen in the first place. And the biggest lie? That silence is weakness, a sign you don't know what to do. In truth, silence is strength when it's rooted in calm authority. It says, I don't need to fill every space to prove my worth. My presence speaks even when I don't. She didn't ghost you, you disappeared from yourself. Silence doesn't push her away, it shows you who she is. Your words don't prove your value, your restraint does. The 1% headman doesn't see silence as a weapon or a trick, he sees it as a mirror. This is what he understands. A woman's response to his absence reveals more than her response to his constant attention ever could. While most men break under the weight of silence, he embraces it, because he knows his worth isn't measured by how quickly she replies. It's measured by how steady he remains when she doesn't. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He doesn't chase, he doesn't beg, he doesn't try to fill every empty space with words. He allows the silence to breathe, because he knows that a woman who truly values him will feel that space and step toward him. The 1% headman has shifted his mindset. Silence is not loss, it's clarity. It's not the end, it's the filter. He trusts that whatever is meant to stay will move closer when he steps back. And whatever drifts away was never his to begin with. That's why he never fears silence. He uses it as a test of alignment, not as a gamble for validation. And that's what makes his presence unforgettable. There comes a moment when the quiet becomes too heavy to ignore. At first it feels like a punishment, like you've been erased from her world. You keep checking your phone, refreshing, hoping for her name to light up the screen. But as the hours pass, as the silence stretches into days, something unexpected happens. You begin to hear yourself again. Beneath the noise of doubt, beneath the ache of waiting, there's a voice you've been silencing far longer than she ever has. You realize it's not her silence that hurts the most. It's the way you've forgotten your own presence in it. You've been so busy trying to prove your worth to her that you lost sight of how much worth you already carried. That's the turning point, the moment when you stop asking, why isn't she talking to me? And you start asking, why have I been talking over myself this whole time? You feel the shift in your chest, subtle, steady, undeniable. The silence no longer feels like a void. It feels like space. Space to breathe, space to remember who you are without anyone else's approval. You realize you've been waiting for her to validate you when the truth is you were the one meant to validate yourself all along. It dawns on you that her response or lack of it doesn't define you. It reveals her, and instead of clinging to what she does or doesn't do, you start to notice something bigger, your strength to stand still, to not break, to not bend. That's when it hits you. The silence was never about her. It was about you, and in that moment you stop waiting. You stop begging the silence to end. You rise inside yourself, steady, calm, powerful, because you finally remember you were never empty without her. You were always whole. So here's the truth. When you stop talking to her, something always happens. Maybe she reaches out, maybe she pulls away, maybe she does nothing at all. But what matters isn't her reaction, it's what the silence reveals. It shows you whether her presence in your life was built on genuine desire or just on the comfort of you always being there. And in that discovery, you learn more about yourself than you ever could through endless words and chasing. Because silence is not a punishment, it's clarity. It teaches you patience. It reminds you of restraint. And it forces you to see your own worth outside of anyone else's response. You don't need to speak endlessly to be heard. You don't need to chase endlessly to be chosen. Sometimes the most powerful thing a man can do is stand still in the quiet and let the truth walk toward him. And if you take nothing else with you, remember this: silence doesn't make you lose her. It shows you whether she was ever yours.